The storm came without warning. The kind that didn't just fall from the sky but seemed to rise from the ground itself, howling through the pine-lined valleys of the Douai frontier like a living thing hungry for blood. Snow whipped sideways, stinging like buckshot, swallowing the trail until the world became nothing but white rage and shadow. Jedediah Cole pulled his hat lower, frost clinging to his beard, his horse trembling beneath him. He'd ridden these lands for 20 years, fought outlaws, wolves, and men far worse. But even he knew when nature was reminding you who truly ruled the West. He was heading back to Fort Granite with supplies when he saw them, too. Shapes near a tree, barely visible through the storm. Most men would have ridden on, telling themselves it was a trick of the snow or already too late. Jed didn't. He swung down from his horse, boots sinking deep, heart pounding as he approached. There she was, an Apache woman, dark hair heavy with snow, eyes sharp despite the exhaustion, shielding a small child with her own body. The child's lips were blue, tiny fingers clutching at her mother's shawl like it was the last thing keeping them alive. Jed froze. The Apache and the settlers had spilled enough blood on this land to stain the rivers. Helping them could get him hanged by his own people, or worse. But then the child coughed. A weak sound swallowed by the wind, and something inside Jed broke open. "Easy," he muttered, voice rough, holding up his hands. The woman didn't flinch, didn't beg. She just stared, defiant even on the edge of death. That look told Jed everything. She wasn't asking for mercy. She was daring him to prove he had a soul. He shrugged off his coat and wrapped it around the child, first ignoring the way the cold bit straight through him. The woman hesitated, then allowed it, her pride bending just enough to save her child. The storm worsened, and Jed knew they wouldn't survive the night there. He lifted the child, felt how light she was, too light, and gestured for the woman to follow. She didn't speak English, and he didn't speak Apache, but fear and hope need no translation. They moved slowly, Jed leading his horse, the woman stumbling, nearly falling more than once. When they reached an abandoned trapper's cabin, half buried in snow, Jed forced the door open with his shoulder. Inside was darkness, rot, and a hint of shelter. He built a fire with numb hands, tearing boards from the wall, striking flint until sparks finally caught. The woman watched him closely, every move measured, ready to fight if she had to. Jed laid the child near the fire, rubbing her hands, praying silently. Hours passed. The storm screamed outside, but inside that broken cabin something shifted. The child's breathing steadied. Color returned to her cheeks. The woman finally spoke, her voice low and fierce. Words Jed didn't understand, but he understood the meaning. Gratitude mixed with warning. When dawn came, Jed thought it was over. He was wrong. Tracks appeared in the snow, men armed, moving fast. They weren't Apaches. They were bounty hunters riding with hatred in their eyes and rope on their saddles. Paid well for Apache scalps. Jed felt the weight of choice settle on him like a coffin lid. Turn them in and walk away alive, or stand between killers and a mother who trusted him with her child. He loaded his rifle, jaw set. The Wild West was about to test what kind of man he truly was. And if this story already has you on the edge of your seat, make sure you subscribe to the channel now, because what happens next will change everything you think you know about courage, sacrifice, and the real meaning of honor in the Wild West. The first shot cracked through the frozen air like thunder splitting the sky, echoing off the trees as snow exploded from a trunk inches above Jed's head. The bounty hunters had found them. There were 4 of them, hardened men with dead eyes, riding in tight formation, rifles raised, already convinced of their righteousness. "Step aside, cowboy," one shouted. "Those savages are worth more dead than alive." Jed didn't step aside. He stood in the cabin doorway, rifle steady, heart hammering, knowing full well this was the moment that would decide the rest of his life. Behind him, the Apache mother pulled her child close, whispering prayers to spirits older than any flag. Jed fired first, not to kill but to warn. The bullet tore through a saddle strap, sending one man crashing into the snow. Chaos erupted. Shots rang out. Wood splintered. Smoke and snow mixed until the world felt unreal. Jed moved like instinct had taken over. Every lesson learned from gunfights past guiding his hands. One hunter fell, wounded. Another retreated behind a tree. But they kept coming. The woman surprised Jed then. She stepped forward, eyes blazing, and let out a cry so raw it cut through the storm. From the tree line came an answer. Shadows moved. Apaches. Warriors who had been tracking her. searching for their own. The hunters realized too late they were outnumbered. Panic replaced cruelty. Shots were fired wildly before silence fell, broken only by the wind and the crackle of the dying fire. When it was over, the hunters were gone, some fleeing, some carried away by the snow forever. Jed stood there shaking, not from cold but from the weight of what he'd done. The Apache warriors approached cautiously, weapons lowered but ready. One older man stepped forward, his presence commanding, eyes scanning, was reading a story written in scars and choices. He spoke, and the woman translated in broken English. "You saved the child. You stood when others would not. You are not our enemy." Jed swallowed hard. He hadn't expected thanks. He hadn't expected mercy. The storm began to ease, clouds breaking as sunlight spilled across the snow, turning the battlefield into something almost holy. The warriors prepared to leave, wrapping the child warmly, lifting her onto a horse. Before she went, the woman pressed something into Jed's hand, a small carved stone, smooth and warm despite the cold. "For life," she said simply. They rode away without another word, disappearing into the forest like spirits. Jed stood alone, the silence louder than gunfire. When he finally returned to Fort Granite days later, rumors spread fast. Some called him a traitor. Others whispered his name with respect. Jed didn't defend himself. He didn't need to. He'd looked death in the eye and chosen humanity over hatred. Years later, people would say the West was built by guns and gold. Jed knew better. It was built by moments like that, when a man stands in a storm and decides that saving one life is worth risking his own. And if this story moved you, shocked you, or made you see the Wild West differently, don't forget to subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications. More powerful untold stories like this are coming. Stories of courage, sacrifice, and the kind of heroes history almost forgot.